Many of the Agile teams I've worked with have had a bit of difficulty scoping their backlog. I'm going to show you not just how to scope, but maybe how to do backlogs better. There's a name for this method: Cosmic. Cosmic's actually an ISO certified way of sizing up software projects. Cosmic uses a measure called points to scope a software system based on data entering and exiting. You get a point for an entry into the system, and you get a point for whatever exits the system. Systems could also save their data internally or interact with other systems. Cosmic calls those reads and writes, but they're just treated like entries and exits, and each gets a point. In fact, within a system, there can be layers of relatively independent entities, each counted separately. Now, imagine a system called Teacher. Teacher has to create a test. Most tests are basically a form that students use to input answers. I'm going to use inputs and outputs interchangeably with entries and exits. We can award one cosmic point for the input called test. Teacher also has to grade the test. We can award another point for the output called grade. Teacher grades a lot of tests, but only 1 point is awarded because the same grading method is applied over and over again. Let's extend teacher with another example. Imagine teacher has a multi-sensory feature called monitor behavior. This is a great example of how a feature seems like one input, but actually is several. Monitor behavior accepts an input through the ears, another through the eyes, and another through her sixth sense. So rather than 1 point going to monitor behavior, because there are 3 separate inputs involved, we award 3 points. Let's not forget the output called scold. Maybe teacher has to read the principal's weekly email. She deserves a cosmic point for that input. Are we also building or maintaining principal? If yes, we count that too. So while teacher gets a point for an input, principal also gets a point for an output. If our system is the whole school, then all self-contained entities of the school, students, teachers, and principal, get points for their interaction with each other and with the outside world. While it's easy to tell these entities apart, is it always so? Let's say we're developing entirely inside teacher's brain. In this system, the clear interactions of the last example are a few levels higher. Fortunately, Cosmic is flexible. It only says scope is determined from the system architect's perspective, which can be at a high level, a low level, or in between. When a lot of the interactions occur strictly inside a complex system like this one, or this one, you've got to take a different perspective, looking at interactions between entities that may be higher or lower. You might even scope at the level of a sequence diagram. Let's put Cosmic into action looking at my project, wherewemet.org. This is the main screen of the system. When it starts, the client gets the user's location and then sends a RESTful request to the map server with that location. The map server returns tiles. Finally, the tiles are painted so the user can view them. Thanks, Mapbox, but the initiation process isn't complete. Next, the client sends the location information to the server. Notice 2 arrows, one for an input on the client side and another for an input on the server side. Next, the server accesses storage to find out where hearts have been placed. The server returns a JSON file telling the client where to place hearts and what they contain. And then the hearts get painted. The initial use case of map display is now complete. Next we have display story, which is simpler. When the user clicks on a heart, it displays a story. Another use case is geographic search. The user enters a geographic search term, which contacts the geolocation server, which returns a lat long that establishes new map centrality. Then a request is sent to the map server, which returns new tiles, and those get painted. Can you tell me what's wrong with this accounting? We should only count what's new. Some of this functionality is reused, and so isn't counted. Another use case is Add Story. When the user clicks Add a Story, an entry dialog appears. The user's information is accepted by the system, sent to the server, and stored. In cosmic terms, that's an entry into the client, an exit from the client, an entry into the server, and a write from the server. The Find Story use case is a great example of inputs and outputs at each layer. When the user clicks Find a Story, an entry dialog appears. The user's search criteria is accepted by the client, sent to the server, stored stories are searched and returned, the server returns the stories along with their locations, and the client responds by refocusing the map to include all stories matching the search. Notice that the server only has a read arrow from the database because the query itself is considered part of the read. There's more happening on this page, but you get the picture. There's just one more detail we should cover. Are all inputs and outputs created equal? Clearly, some are larger in scope and some are smaller, right? Cosmic says that all entries and exits, reads and writes are equal, that things balance out. If you don't agree, you might weight your inputs and outputs using a scale like Fibonacci, but that wouldn't be a cosmic standard. You just learned how to scope using cosmic points. Not perfectly, but good enough. I think it's better to tailor backlog items so they correspond to a single cosmic point. Each point won't necessarily be equal to the smallest piece of functionality that can be implemented, but using points will make for more consistent backlog items, which will correspond well to actual effort, and that will help you plan better. If you found this tutorial helpful, please like this video. Leave comments with your questions and criticisms. Also, go to wherewemet.org and enter your own love story.